Are you gonna do it?
It doesn't say live yet.
It is?
live
Yes,
now.
It does
jackass.
say. It doesn't
It's
say
been
live
live
for
for
me. Now
6
it does. Now it does.
Oh my
All right.
God!
It didn't say live for me. I'm
No.
sorry. Do I need to put on the Mickey ears?
Oh my!
Okay.
Yes, actually, go get them.
No, absolutely not. But anyways, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another Podwan's Acolyte Roundtable. I am your host, Char J, joined by my co-host, Jedi Master Eggs,
What's going on?
Forward Into the Black, and
Hello.
Harris Productions.
What up?
Today, we're going to be talking about episode 3 of the Acolyte Destiny. There's a lot to uncover, and there's a lot of news and a lot of thoughts on this.
I can't believe we finally have something in Star Wars that's so universally loved.
But yes, so we have a big discussion to talk about with Acolyte episode 3. We have 2 guests on today, one new to the Podwan's podcast, and another one is a returner. He's been on our reactions, and we'll be discussing all of the thoughts, and we're going to be just going over what the events that took place in this episode. But without further ado, let's bring in our guests.
The Emperor has foreseen a new threat rising against him. The Podwan's Podcast.
So, our first guest to come on today. So he's been on our Acolyte reactions thus far, and
He's our.
you've seen him quite recently.
He's
well,
on our.
he needs no intro. Let's bring in ND Wise guy, Nick.
He's our
Hey, guys.
honorary. He's our honorary. Wow, the delay there.
The delay was perfect.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna pull a Char. Luke, calm down. We know he has children.
Calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down, okay?
Yeah, he does have children.
He's children.
He does.
From Canada.
No,
Okay.
no. You know, ever since then, I've been like, wow, I really should have said he has a child. But then again, that's also very weird if you think about it.
Okay. Enough
But
of the
let's
children.
not
But
think
Nick,
too hard about it.
Nick.
But
good to see you.
anyway,
Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Char.
Are you ready?
Good
Are you
to
ready
see
to
everyone.
talk about this episode?
This very non-divisive, everyone universally loved episode? Definitely.
Yeah.
wait. Just for this week, didn't we call it the Wokalite? It's the Wokalite, right?
It's the Wokalite. Yeah, we're here to talk about the
what they call it.
Wokalite.
Yeah.
Cool.
They
Just
don't
making
like it,
sure
though.
that we were all on the same page. That what we saw was totally woke and nothing past like, oh my God, George Lucas's Star Wars is ruined.
Yeah. I mean, it's like
Anyway,
it's woke because when the fanboys rely on Legends material for canon, it's a little different.
Not even
But-
Legends material, but anyway.
Yeah.
we'll get into
But,
this conversation. We'll
yes.
get into this conversation.
Nick, good to see you again.
Good to see you, too.
Our next guest, we have a newbie to the Podwans. Let's bring in Natasha. I mean, how you doing? This is one of the most outspoken people about the Acolyte, and we're just excited to have you on.
She's been like the #1 fan girl, fan person out here. Like she's just like absolutely just destroying it.
Yeah, thank you guys. First of all, I'm going to be using the Wokalite hashtag now.
Wait. No, very important here. Very important question,
Mhm.
Natasha.
Mm.
Are you Are you going to accept the honorary tag of Kelnaka crew? Because you have to now.
First of all, I love Kelnaka. We're gonna get into it, but
Yes!
his energy, I'm a fan. I'm worried about what's coming, but right now, I'm here for Kelnaka. Yes, Kelnaka
Yes.
crew. I'm in.
Kelnaka crew. All right, everybody get Swagman on board, and then we'll really get it going. Your
Yes.
hord's great.
So
Your
is
hord's
there like a
great.
group? Is there like a name for every single
Yes.
guy? There's
Yes.
Kelnaka
Yes,
group?
there is.
There
Horde.
is.
What is there?
There
Is there? What is there like? Torben
Full
troop?
squad?
Torben?
No,
troop?
there's
It's
No.
the full squad, Soul Patrol.
The Soul Patrol.
The
thought it was
Andara
full squad.
incels.
What's
No, they seem it seems to
Dara.
mix, but I think Soul Patrol has been the main one.
Yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. OSHA violation.
That was the best
Yeah.
one.
Pipsqueaks. Let's not forget the pipsqueaks.
Maze.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's Jackie's group?
Jackie Jam.
Yeah.
It's the Jackie Jam.
Jam.
Oh man.
And now we got Kelnaka
I
crew.
got the Kanaka crew.
Kelnaka crew. like honestly, to be honest, like in Natasha, you put a tweet out there the other day, and you're like, I love how the High Republic, like the Twitter, like specifically the Twitter community, is just like, they can't complain about our stuff because they don't like to read. And it's like, you're so right. It's so funny. Pick up, if you really want to get upset, pick up those books and read them as a fan that doesn't like diversity, any inclusion besides white people and like aliens and shit. Oh, you'd lose it.
Oh my god!
Truly,
If they
that's
only
truly
knew,
the woke.
If they only knew.
There is a sort of part of the fandom that has either dipped their toe into the High Republic or just heard through the grapevine, because it is known as the woke Republic, like in some circles. Like word spread that like there's non-binary twins. How could they? George Lucas would never.
There's a motherfucking rock. What?
hey.
Multiple
rock
Black
fucks.
Jedi. No.
Yeah.
Oof.
Couldn't be me. Couldn't be us. Couldn't be us. Come on.
That was so in favor.
So I'm excited for this conversation because it's just like I tune into Natasha's like tweets, and it's just like, go girl. Let's go. And it's just like, and you're just so down to earth and so like real. I remember when we met in London, and I just was like, all right, Natasha's a whole bunch of fun. This is gonna be a good time. so to have you on is awesome. But Natasha, for those listeners that don't really know you, what was your first introduction to Star Wars? Real quick, before we get into the whole Acolyte thing,
Yeah. Acolyte. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird because I can't remember a time in my life where like I didn't really have Star Wars. Like my dad and my brother were huge Star Wars fans even before I was like a little zygote. So like it's been like a huge tradition, if you will, in my family. My very first distinct memory of Star Wars is I loved Empire Strikes Back so much when I was a kid. Grew up watching that movie over and over and over and over again, to the point in which like I ruined the tape that we had, and my parents had to replace it. And I remember the first time watching that movie, or my first memory watching that movie, I was horrified by what I perceived as the death of Han Solo. Like it legitimately thought like, what's happening? And I was so upset that my parents were like, okay, we actually need to like watch this next movie like immediately. I don't think we could like go make her go like 3 days without knowing what happens next. But yeah, it's always been a really big part of my life. I grew up born and raised in San Diego, and I went to like very like early years of San Diego Comic-Con, and was like always like going in some sort of Star Wars cosplay since I was like pretty young. And yeah, it's just always been a big part of it. And you know, I think similar to Leslie Headland, I really grew up in an era of just like reading the Legends books, and for a long time that's like literally all I had. Like I just had those 3 movies and then the Legends books for like years, until the prequels came out when I was like a teenager. So it's just always been present. I loved the books. And it's really exciting to now be watching content from somebody who obviously has like a lot of love for like all of these different eras of Star Wars, and it's like finding ways to like weave all of that into this really beautiful story. But yeah, just always been always been a big fan. Princess Leia is my girl. Always.
Yes.
My number one.
Absolutely. I mean, and here's the thing. That's why we asked the question, because everybody's experience is different. And
Yep.
I love hearing people's first interactions with Star Wars and stuff like that, because like everybody knows, like for the majority of us, they've either been a guest or us as hosts. Like my first ever movie period was The Phantom Menace. And it's just like I grew up watching some of the original trilogy, but not really processing it until after I'd seen Phantom Menace, and then I really started getting obsessed.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting to hear different perspectives. All right, now we can talk about
We get to the Acolyte. Oh yeah.
Oh my god. I literally am gonna use that hashtag though.
So here's my take before I let Natasha go. Okay. So like my whole thing is that I really enjoyed this episode. I was giddy because they were the witches were using, like, what they were talking about was like, oh my god, Plagueis did that in the Legends novel, but like not really in the Legends novel. Like it's Legends, but like the way they manipulate or like are creating life, it is different. By the way, gotta make that completely clear. The way these witches created these two children is completely opposite of how Anakin was created. And it's just the fact that they're putting crumbs out, and I'm like, Plagueis. I'm like sitting back, and I'm like sitting like this. Yes, exactly. I'm just like sitting in my chair. I'm like,
Oh my god.
Chris.
Tag it. The first Plagueis reference 10 minutes in.
I mean,
Already.
I loved how on JJ and Kari's live it became a bit. Anytime someone would say Plagueis, people would be like, "Where's Luke?"
No, but like seriously though, because like this is a thing. Like Leslie Helen straight up said, this is going to be the story about the Sith.
Yep.
And I feel right now, like I feel like it's we're getting a lot of meat and potatoes. Like, yes, we're getting build up. Like, we don't need the Sith right away. Like, we have to build up to that moment, and eventually we will get that moment. And when it hits, it's gonna hit. But people losing it about it ruins Anakin's birth. Like, do you understand anything about anything? Like, what are we talking about here? It's like it's crazy.
It's
crazy.
the literal definition of grasping at straws.
Yes, exactly. But Natasha, what were your thoughts? Let's get into it. Let's have a conversation.
Oh wow. Just my thoughts about anything. Yeah, no, this was such a powerful episode. I loved it. I love that. I think that a lot of people have been saying that this episode is unique from at least the first two, where it has a one-word title as opposed to the other couple of episodes that like very intentionally have like two-word, titles that are meant to like kind of like play off of the different like themes that the episode is talking about. And this one intentionally just has like one word. And I think that as a lot of people have already kind of talked about, I think that this is going to be this has been Osha's perspective, and I'm hoping that like what we're gonna get next is May's perspective. The writing of this episode was just like incredible. I think the writing this whole season so far has been great, but this episode in particular was able to do so much in such a small amount of time. And first of all, like, again, I've said this before about the first two episodes too. And we'll say this about this episode, is that they are doing such a fantastic job of introducing these characters we have never seen before, but also making them feel so incredibly lived in, like we understand who they are quickly, and in a way that also just feels like very like good and intentional. Again, love the energy of like having this like really matriarchal society, and being able to see the Force used in or thought about in a different way. I know that there are people in this, round table who have not read the High Republic books. Yes, that is Sunless Judgment.
Yeah.
But one of the things.
Wait.
Also, I'm getting through Fallen Star now. So
I haven't read Phase 3. Stop it.
No.
Natasha, I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase "go woke, go broke."
Nick, why you're pointing up at me? Like I read Path of Deceit and Quest of the Hidden City. Those are the only two in Phase 3 that I've read. Don't point
No,
me
those
as like
aren't
I've
Phase
never
3.
read
Those aren't Phase 3 books.
Don't yell at me.
Also, I was the one that dragged you into the High Republic. Remember that shit.
Oh my god. Okay. All right.
Preach, Chris. Chris has got it right.
Okay,
Amazing.
it's not refuse to read Phase 2. I need to, like, my whole thing, I guess my one gripe is that, yes, they tried to do exactly what the films did. They did one era and then did a prequel and then did the sequel. But, like, the way Fallen Star fucking ends, and then you take me away from it.
Like, all right, Kevin.
It's frustrating, but I will. I promise. I promise. I will read those books. I have them on my freaking shelf. One of the authors used to work. Is like a doctor from where I'm from. So she wrote a book, and she worked at the same facility I did. So I have no reason not to read.
Yeah.
What's her name, Luke? What's her name?
Oh my god.
This is making it
it's
so
Lydia
much
Kane
worse.
together and you get
Making
No,
it
it's the author. It's the
so
author
much
for
worse.
Cataclysm. She wrote Cataclysm.
It's Lydia
Oh my
Kane,
god,
you
Lydia,
dumbass.
little
I'm
Kane.
looking
Yeah.
at
I was saying, no. I literally was like Lydia something, Lydia Young. I wanted to say Lydia Young.
Well,
I was like, no, that's
you,
not
you,
right.
you have to read Phase 2 to understand the depths of hate that some people have for Yoda.
No, I
Yeah.
don't need that. Have you met my fiance? I live. She's literally the number one
Oh
Yoda
my
hater.
god.
And to be completely frank, I don't like Yoda either. Like I think.
Yeah.
There you
You're
go.
right.
Oh my god, Atlantis from the back.
There you go. There you go. So
All right.
yeah,
All right. I'm gonna bring us back.
all right. If you can.
The reason I brought up the books is because there is a group of people called the Path of the Open Hand.
Yes.
That is to me it feels so I have the working theory, as I think a lot of people do, that this group of witches, a sect of witches, are maybe some sort of inspiration or have some sort of connection to the Path of the Open Hand, based on the way that they view the Force, and how they actually have a completely different way of thinking about like this kind of this different way
Yes.
of like connecting all kind of life together. So it was really interesting just seeing a group of people that have like a completely different way of looking at things. I'm glad that I was honestly kind of worried that the show was going to approach this group of witches as this sort of like solely antagonists, and they were going to come in and like feel like sort of like the main villains or antagonists or whatever of like the story, or one of the main villains of the story. And again, we don't know all of the different perspectives yet, so I'm trying not to put too much of they're good or bad or someplace in
Yeah.
between.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate that they are taking a very nuanced take and approach and how they are presenting them and kind of presenting their structure, presenting the mother's relationships to the twins. And I really love that. And I'm really interested to see how the character of May continues to be developed. I will just say that like from the jump, May just strikes me as somebody who has just experienced a lot of coaching of certain like belief systems, and seeing that that's not just a product of whatever her relationship is to her master right now, but it's also in relationship to how she grew up, and the relationship that she had like to the coven and her mother's. And like it's just really interesting to kind of see like the different perspective between the twins. May coming from a space of I don't need to see the rest of the galaxy. I don't need to go anywhere. I have everything I need right here. Like this is my life and I don't need anything beyond it. And seeing somebody like Osha who is just like, I want to see the stars. I want to do something bigger and better with my life. And not really presenting like either of those options as bad or wrong, just sort of different perspectives on how they are viewing the life that they're living. Yeah, I mean, I guess like another thing that I was reflecting on a lot as I was watching this episode, but like in particular, kind of started with like the first episode too, is how much this episode really I think speaks to um the conversation that Mother Anastasia has with the twins when she talks about you know, the world, like the galaxy fears women like us, you know. And I think having that particular conversation between this black woman like with her two black children like felt very very deeply intentional, um and it felt like it was important in terms of like what they're laying the groundwork for in terms of how the witches are perceived in the galaxy, whether we should like agree with that perception or not, but also just like as a black femme watching this show, like it feels like very much like a conversation that they're having with this particular corner of the fandom, being like, hey, like we recognize that this is like a feeling, you know.
Yeah.
And it was yeah, it just felt very very like intentional, and I just felt like there were just like a lot of just genuine honest human beats throughout this episode that I yes, shout out to Jodie Turner Smith.
Yes.
Mother
Absolutely.
Anastasia.
All
So good. Like
so,
Yeah.
so beautiful, so much empathy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how, like you said, Natasha, like we don't want to put whether they're good or bad yet because we're only seeing it from one side of the story. It's gonna be interesting to see how this whole thing turns out because let's be real here, that fire didn't do shit to them.
No.
To them
No.
witches.
No.
So
No.
there's gotta be
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
gotta be something that happens between the
Oh
group
no,
of
yeah,
Jedi.
we still gotta figure
and the
out why
witches, for
Torben
sure.
decided to off himself. Like that.
Yeah.
We have to figure
Yeah.
out why.
No,
Like, it isn't just,
this
like, a
was
fire
terrible.
that
They
started.
didn't tell me everything I needed to know in this 30-minute
know.
episode, and so
How
it's
dare
the
they.
worst thing that Star Wars has ever put out. You guys
Yeah,
are
it's woke. It's
insane.
woke. I don't like it.
You
I mean,
sound insane
I mean,
right now. Do you
I think,
realize
like-
that? You should be medicated.
I think it was interesting because, like Natasha, you're perfectly right. Like the trailers gave us the impression that this coven was going to be an antagonist to the Jedi group because traditionally we've always looked at the Jedi as the good guys on the side of right, And I think something that this show has done so well through these first 3 episodes is really ask the question, are they?
Are they?
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
Because you see it more and more, and I like watching this episode, especially when you watched the difference of approach between Soul and Indara, of how they asked
Oh.
for
Mhm.
permission with the twins. Soul, for me, felt like a genuine, do you want to do this? Like, you can say no, and I feel like Soul would have been like, okay. Whereas Indara was asking. That was
Yep.
not a request as much of it was they can come with us, or we can take them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, just like really quick, like I think that you're spot on with that. I really loved how they sort of played Indara and Soul sort of like as two different sort of approaches from the Jedi Council. I mean, Indara came in with like truly like police energy.
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
came in and she was like she came in first, like everybody was standing behind her, like she came in like as an authoritarian, really. And she wasn't really giving a choice. And I think that we can talk about how the witches responded to that, but I think that they were just matching her energy. And I really I think like even when we think about when they were testing OSHA, and Soul just was so treated her with such kindness and patience and spoke to her like a full person, and was just like, again, just had like deep empathy for her situation, and was also just making it clear that she had a choice. And like that's one of the things I loved about both him and Mother Anastasia, like in both of their interactions with OSHA throughout the episode. They were very clear, you have a choice, no one is making you do any of these things. And then you look at somebody like Indara, when in that same scene, she barely engages with OSHA. She's very like reserved and like distant. And the only thing like she really kind of offers towards the end is like, all right, can we get back to this test or what?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
is not really wanting to build a relationship with this child, or build trust with her. Like, she's not interested in that. And I'm very interested to kind of learn more about what OSHA's experience was when she did eventually go join the Jedi, because they made it very clear. I think it was like in the first episode when there was a conversation that took place. I think it was like between
between Yord and OSHA,
Yep.
when they first come to pick her up. Yeah, I know exactly what you're referring to. Yeah.
When basically Yord says like, yeah, Indara was the one that was making a case
Against
for you
you.
to for you to like leave or whatever, and we didn't really learn like what was the thing that Indara said, like what was the thing that had Indara be like, get her out of here, so I'm excited to learn more about that. But anyway, I really enjoyed kind of the differences between Indara and Soul in this episode, and I think that was like really important to see the different kind of perspectives and like the dynamics within the Jedi Council or the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like
Mhm.
it. Oh, go ahead, Chase.
I was saying, yeah, one of the things that I did like, kind of like what you talked about with Indara and Soul, but also with Mother Coral and Mother Anastasia, is what I think you have is you have the Jedi Order that's here, and you have nuance to these situations. It's not the Jedi are here to do this, and this is how it's going to go. Is you have 4 different Jedi that have 4 totally different behavioral traits. And they're going about each situation differently. And then with the Coven, like everyone reacts differently to different things. It's not just here's the Coven, here's what they believe, go. It's well, Mother Anastasia believes this, Mother Coral believes that, some other people from the Coven believe this, May believes this, OSHA believes that. There's so many different perspectives from each faction. Let's just say faction on this storyline, that you're getting multiple perspectives from each side, and it's not just this is how it is, this is how that is. And I like that, because for me, growing up as a Star Wars fan, my favorite things were seeing perspectives of the Force outside of the Jedi and the Sith.
Yeah.
And with the thread, I think I will say it's not my favorite interpretation of the Force that we've ever gotten in all of Star Wars, but it's an interesting one.
Yes.
Because like my favorite one is Majina from The Village Bride and Visions. That is like connected. The Force is connected to the planet, and we're connected to the planet. And like, oh my god,
yeah.
Village Bride is peak Star Wars. I will die on that hill.
Wait, Chase, above or below Resistance?
Above. Like I'm like I am dead serious. Like the Village Bride, when Visions came out and I watched Village Bride, I stopped and watched it again because I was like, there's no way they just did what they did.
They literally like they would just like talk about it every single second. Did you watch Village Bride? Village Bride was so good.
It's not just did you watch it? Did you rewatch it? Did you watch it 12 times? But like no, even in the Darth Bane trilogy, they like Bane goes to essentially an uncontacted civilization that knows how to use the Force. And like how they interpret the Force is very different than anything we've ever seen, and that's one of my favorite parts of that trilogy. The trilogy is like late 2000s, early 2010s level cringe at this point, with its edgelordiness. But seeing really the first time, I think in live action, I guess outside of the Night Sisters, this is the first time we've really seen the Force portrayed in a different way. And I don't know if this was the intention. The one thing that I thought was interesting is like, the thread reminds me of like string theory and physics of like how the universe is actually woven together and how it's, again, I'm not saying this is how they planned it, but it just like knocked in my head of like, they're literally just like, they have figured out how to get into that dimension and they are just tapping into it. And I think it's super cool. Again, is it my favorite interpretation? No, but it's a really interesting one that I want to see more of. I want to see more of what May can do with her perspective on this. So I like this episode. I see some criticisms, and when I say some, we're talking the 0.00001% of criticisms I have seen out there. And we can get into that a little bit later. I'd like to hear everyone else's thoughts on the episode overall, but I had a great time. I really love, like, Mother Anastasia, like, really knocked it out of the park.
100%.
Like, I felt this way in Bad Batch, and I don't mean this as a discredit to anyone else in the cast, but like Hemlock in Bad Batch stood out so brightly in their performance compared to the rest of the cast. And I feel that with Jodie Turner-Smith is that she is by and large standing out in her performance with this show.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, it's like when she's on stage, you're like, damn.
Yeah.
I'm listening. Damn.
Yeah.
She commands they command the screen.
Yeah,
like
I absolutely love her in this, and I hope we get more. I hope we get more flashback from May's perspective or someone else's perspective, like any of the Jedi's perspective, so we just see more of her character on screen.
Yeah,
you know, Chase, it's actually hilarious because I mean, this is the first time on screen that we have seen the Force in a different perspective or a different variation of the Force on screen, because in the books there's plenty.
Oh,
let me
yeah.
tell you, because like there's a bunch in the High Republic, like the Sorcerers of Toon called it the Unity, or the Llewellyns. Like they're both from the High Republic comics. They called it the Tide. Like the Zephyr from Jedi Fallen Order called it the Life Wind. The Dianoka from the Trash Compactor.
I forget what it's called, but I know in the Ascendancy trilogy they called it something else.
From the Legends of Luke Skywalker book called it the Luminous Mist. And like the Ascendancy books, the Pathfinders called it the Great Presence. Like, this has been an established thing in canon that people have seen the Force in a different way. So for the Covenant to call it the Thread, this isn't foreign to anybody who's kept up with canon. Like this is nothing.
You're forgetting one main thing though, Char. All of those other interpretations were said by either aliens or white people.
Yeah.
Boom.
So
Right?
So the
yeah.
threat doesn't
and
count.
I
I'm
like
sorry.
and I mean even the path of the open hand, because I agree with Natasha. There's definitely huge path of the open hands, and
Oh
the more that I
yeah.
think about it, I know that there's a lot of chat, and I assume Natasha, you've probably seen it about the similarities between the Zevrons
Yeah.
and the twins in this.
Yeah.
I feel a huge vibe between the Rose. Like when you think of Marta and her sister and Yana and their
Yeah.
very different
Mhm.
views of the path, like that to me
Yeah.
just screams May and Osha.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and here's the other thing. Here's my question. Everybody's been saying, okay, I think the biggest thing for me, and I think it's a misunderstanding, or maybe I am the one that is misunderstanding here. It could be very much me. But in my opinion, I look at Osha and May's relationship and their connection to the Force not as a dyad, but as a Force connection similar to the twins in the High Republic comics and Luke and
Tarek and
Leia.
Surrett.
I think that is more likely than actual Force dyad.
Oh, I don't think they're a Force dyad
Yeah, no.
at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen that take on plenty of things, and I'm just like, I just don't see it because we don't have a clear definition of what a Force dyad is, what you have to be to have a Force dyad. It's not concrete.
Yeah.
And it's also a super
Rare, super
uncommon
rare.
thing. Like we're talking like many generations apart. Like it's not supposed to be just out there just because it can. No, it's supposed to be like every 1 to 2,000 years.
Yeah. So it's like seeing that, and can we talk about the switch of May's personality? Like one moment she's like using the Force on the animal, and then she's like she lets go, and then goes and like comforts Osha. Like the craziness spin of like how May's personality is. One moment she's very serious and she's able to like manipulate the Force in such a way, but then in the next moment be so kind and soft and gentle. I think that's a huge thing.
I think that was the most subtle one of the episode. The most crazy one was the "I'm not gonna let you leave" to "I'm gonna kill you." You're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's just like, whoa, bro. You need to. Did you take your medication this morning? No, me neither. And it's just like, oh wow, here we go.
I think it's a little bit of theory crafting, but it makes me think that there's some type of outside influence on May at this point. Like whether it's Darth teeth or not. There's something else there, because even with Mother Coral's like rigidity and the Coven, like I don't think that she is like the type of person that's like, well, you're gonna have to kill your sister. That's how this is gonna play out. And like Mother Anastasia is clearly not putting this in May's mind. So I'm just like, there's got to be something else going on here. She wouldn't be acting like this based on like I can see some of the behavior of like being like, I'm going to do this. This is my path. This is my destiny coming from the Coven. But the crushing of animals, the threatening of your twin sister is like, that doesn't sound like this Coven at all.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think I am kind of sitting with how we are perceiving the character of Mother Coral, to be honest, because like it does feel like she is encouraging certain aspects in May that are problematic. And I don't know what the intentionality is behind that. I'm not trying to put on like my full tin cap at the moment, but like, I think that, there's a reason why she's really not present at all, like anywhere at the end of this episode when all of the witches are presumably dead, ? As well as Mother Anastasia. Where is Mother Coral like during this? And in terms of like the influence on May, like I do think it is really likely that Coral did send May to her sister. Do I think that she sent her there to be like, go kill your sister? No, I do not
Yeah.
think that. But like
On that, and not related to story, the makeup for Mother Coral.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whoa.
The
Perfect.
most sleek
Whoa.
Zabrak I've ever seen.
That
even more than
was
Darth Maul.
when she came on set, I was like, wow.
oh my god.
It almost
good.
like it was that like we've obviously had Maul on screen, and Maul,
Yep.
you know, Maul was a sight to behold when he
Yep.
came on screen in 1999. That was great, but this is like, you know, like, I this may or may not be canon. Dathomirian Zabrix and Iridonian Zabrix is what I'm used to, and
Yep.
she is the Iridonian Zabric.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen that on screen, and just like
Mhm.
seeing it, like to me, seeing that come to life, like when like my favorite one was like Beodur from like KOTOR 2, and I'm just like, this is so cool to see on screen and represented so well, because like I am not a stickler for like how high the Grand Inquisitor's head was, or how
Oh
long
my god.
Ahsoka's
Fuck
tendrils
right off.
I don't
care.
I don't
Yep.
care how blue Cad Bane or Thrawn are,
Mhm.
but seeing how well they did the makeup for Mother Coral, I was just like I'm fine if they change it for live action, but when they nail it, it's just so like, oh yes, this is so good.
So good. Yeah, the makeup, the costuming, the music, the cinematography. This show is unbelievable. But yeah, totally. The makeup for her was just so great. And you know, we're definitely going to see more of her. That's very obvious. And yeah, I'm really curious to learn a little bit more about like what her intentions are. I'm still kind of question mark on what her intentions are, how sinister, you know, her intentions are. I don't know if I have an opinion on that quite yet, but I do think that she is deeply involved in like forming May's personality and how she kind of showed up at the end. But maybe she is under some other kind of like, I don't know, dark influence of some kind. But at the moment, my working theory is like she's involved somehow.
I repost this on my story because I think Star Wars Explained has been doing a lot of good jobs like with these episodes, and I do agree with one of the points his guest made on his most recent episode of I like the idea that the Sith are not involved at all in the situation. The idea that both the Jedi and the Coven both fucked up in this great situation, and the Sith just took advantage of it. So I hope that this whole situation with May and all that, I hope it's just this disaster if it just happens. Like, I don't mind the idea of like Corrin somehow like influencing May to go stop Osha, and then Corrin also being involved with how they all get wiped out, because clearly, like Luke said, the fire didn't kill them; they're all poisoned. Like there was no burn marks on any single person. Like, so
yeah,
who
there's no burn
poisoned
marks.
them?
There's no debris that may have hit that many people.
I mean, I definitely have heard the poison theory, and I'm so curious about that for sure. But the thing that I keep thinking about is the fact that at one point in the journey of that episode, when Osha goes through the little tunnel that's in her bedroom and she's walking through the tunnel, the witches are clearly alive at that point, because like there's an explosion and they yell, there is a thing that happens, and they are alive. So I guess like I'm wondering, in terms of like the theory around the poisoning, when would that have happened? Because it was really not that much time between when that happened and when she's at the bridge.
Well, and we also have to remember the trailer clearly shows two Jedi fighting.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we obviously saw Anastasia use whatever magic she did to take control of Torben.
Yeah.
I have a bad feeling that my Wookiee, the Kalnaka crew, we might have started a movement, and then after one episode, we're gonna have to be like, Well,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well,
I was like,
we're gonna have to put up
unfortunately,
like
the Kelnaka crew is Kilnaka killed. So
I
Yeah,
mean,
Kanaka killed,
I
but,
feel like from a logical perspective, if you're gonna mind control someone of that four group, you take Kanaka. That's the
you
person
take
you
the
take.
Wookiee.
Kelnaka
you
to
definitely-
Kilnaka. So.
Yeah, oh
You
my
let the
God.
Wookiee win, right?
Not
That's
kill
the goal.
knockout.
Oh,
But you,
God.
Natasha, you did bring up the explosion, and I think that the explosion is important because there was a doomsday-like device hanging out in the coven.
Yes.
Very like Despicable Me Gru vibes
Yeah.
device.
That was like evil scientist. Like, yes,
Yeah.
what can I do with this hunk of metal?
Yeah.
You know, I do think, and you know, maybe it'll go this way, maybe it won't. But God, it would shut the fanboys up. Is that device connected to how the twins were born? Is that some type of
Forger?
whatever energy that they have harnessed? Does it extend past what we know of the Force? Is it something that goes into like the physical world as well?
Mhm.
Is it like the world's largest mechanical womb ever? You know, who knows? I'm very interested because they definitely showed that, and then I might be wrong. The really good shot of May and Osha on the destroyed bridges, the walkways.
Yeah.
That's where the device was, right?
I think so.
Because it looks
Yeah.
like where it collapsed. Like there was clearly something.
Correct.
There. I mean,
And also in the episode when they're doing the
It's like
ceremony, when the Jedi show up, they destroyed the bridge. Like that was the first thing they said. So
Yeah.
Indara was the one that took it out.
And the other
Or
thing
one of
is,
them
is that
did.
is that the what they're doing. Well, in that time, that shaft is a volcano, because if you see
At
the
the bottom,
shot
yeah.
of them at the
Yeah.
bottom,
Yeah.
there's lava there.
Mhm.
So, not to just hopefully nobody falls into that. Because we know one character that absolutely does not cook well. But anyway,
All right, it's about the one that talks about like making your own choices and everything, and you're not forced to do anything. You have choices, but
yeah.
yeah.
Anyway. I think another good thing backtracking a little bit to Soul specifically, and we'll talk about Kalnaka because Kalnaka is just out here doing it. By the way, he has a bandolier. Can we not talk about
Yes.
He has a
Yes.
bandolier. It's canon that no matter what, if a Wookiee does not have a bandolier, they're not a true Wookiee. And I'm sorry.
Buried?
Wow.
feels
The-
racist
the
and
Wookiees-
racist all at
The
the same
Wookiees
time,
on Kessel during Solo would like to have a word with you because
How
they did
dare
not
you.
have
They
bandoliers.
were naked. They didn't have a choice.
Yeah, like when
But they were still real Wookiees.
like when
No,
Chewie
they
ran into
were real
Sagwa.
Wookiees.
Like
Guess what? They probably had bandoliers. Okay, they just got them taken away because they're on Kessel and they're slaves now. All right, that doesn't. You turned my words again.
You have done that yourself.
yeah, look, if you don't take off that hat, you're not a true Star Wars fan. That's kind of like the same thing you're saying right now. Like if you're not wearing like a certain part of the gear of like a character, like you're not a true
Luke out here gatekeeping Wookiee.
Wow.
Luke dealing in absolutes over here. Unbelievable.
Hey, Luke, does your dog have a bandolier?
Yes, he does.
Fake Chewie. Fake Chewie.
He does. He does have a bandolier, actually.
Yeah, it's called a collar.
But yeah, anyway, no, but like the way, and we had touched on this a little bit, like Nick had touched on it, like the difference between Indira asking and Soul actually being like, do you want to do this? The fact that Soul picked up on Osha lying like almost instantly was like, all right, kid, like we know exactly what you want to do. We're still, and at that point he still doesn't push her to make that decision.
That was like
Even
a laugh
then.
out loud part for me of like when he's like, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
I
It's like,
love
no, it wasn't. And I was like,
I love
oh,
it so
yeah.
much.
No,
Yes.
because I mean, when I watched that, it was just like when Anakin was testing in the Phantom Menace, and like
Oh, yeah.
the Jedi know what's going on inside their head. Like the moment that they take the test, like when Yoda's like talking about afraid to lose your mother, and how do you feel? Cold, and then this and that. Like they know what's going on within that person.
They
just want to have you kind of like say your part, and then what they already know.
Yeah, and to that point, this is why I am so interested if they go through a lot of these events through May's perspective, because I really want to know what May's testing looked like. And like what she did, and like how Soul was interacting with her in that space when she kind of went in with already like the devout belief that like I have no interest in this. I'm gonna lie through my teeth no matter what they say. I don't really care. I'm not gonna, and I'm really, I am very, very, very interested to see that through May's perspective.
And another thing that you were mentioning before, Natasha, about like the witches and how they're like welcome or accepted in the galaxy. Like, have any of these people seen Hocus Pocus? Like, have you seen Harry Potter, where like witchcraft is like a very like oddity thing? Like think about like the medieval times with witchcraft. Like, you know what people would do? Mobs would go out on the street, which is the fandom. But no one accepts witchcraft.
Wait, which fandom?
Take your pick. They're getting to that
they're
point.
all trash, guys. They're all trash.
Like, don't tell Vernon Dursley about witchcraft. He'll lock you under a staircase. It's not a quote unquote normal thing in the galaxy. So they're gonna see it as like the witches already know that it's viewed as a dark power. So that's why they were in exile for so long, because no one really accepted them. Because they thought that they were using their powers for very unorthodox means. But now they're like, okay, well, we're just...
It's what's interesting to me, because like if you've read Phase 2, you know of the Convocation of the Force, and the whole point of the Convocation of the Force was to bring like the Sorcerers of Tun, like you mentioned, or the Guardians of the Wills, or the Disciples, like to all have that full understanding, those different perspectives in one place and discuss it. So like I'm quite curious to know what it was about this coven, and I think it was Jacob who pointed out a visual resemblance between this coven and the Yacombe in the Convocation, which if you've read the Marvel comic run, they kind of pop in, start a whole bunch of shit, and then leave. Basically go, nah, this isn't for us. But there's a lot of visual similarities, and they were one that had traditionally been a dark side aligned group. But that didn't be a case for exclusion, because the Sorcerers of Tune were more of a dark side aligned group, and they were welcome at the Convocation. So I'm really curious to see why it is the galaxy changed so much in realistically a relatively short period of time, that a coven of witches and their view on the Force were suddenly othered and not welcomed to have that conversation with.
It definitely makes me feel like there is some sort of history of antagonism, whether it's like misunderstood or whatever the case may be, but something happened at some point in the history between these witches, this coven, and probably the Jedi. And I'm very curious to hear about what that is. But yeah, you're right. And I kind of wonder if the Jedi still has this sort of open dialogue with different Force users at this point in their history. We don't know that, actually. So I'm really curious about that, because at this point, like Phase 2, that was like what, 200 years ago or something at this point. Yeah.
Also, the fact that they removed themselves from the Republic space just to get away from the Jedi. And then also the fact that Endara showed up and was like, yeah, we thought this planet's uninhabited, which I call bullshit on, because she literally broke her way into a base like, yeah, we thought this planet was uninhabited.
They had space campers. They were not just passing by.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
a member of the Endara incels, I will not stand for this.
Yeah,
The Endara Please actually coin that. That needs to be the group.
Yeah.
I look. I love Endara, mostly because I love Trinity, and just seeing Trinity back being Trinity is so cool to me. But yeah, like she is not the Jedi vibe, which maybe this is a transition point, maybe to the discussion. One of the criticisms I did see of this show, and specifically episode 3, was the idea of representing the Jedi as potentially problematic hurts the narrative of the actual Jedi and furthers that discussion. The Jedi are actually evil. The Jedi are the bad guys. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I get that feeling of like, when I think High Republic Jedi, I am so disconnected from the prequel Jedi when I get into that like mindset. And this being kind of that transition period and having kind of these Indara and Yord type characters is like, are we going to further that narrative of the Jedi are the bad guys? Like, I'm so smart because I see through the lies of the Jedi narrative. And I've seen that go around very rarely, but it is something I saw that I thought was like worth like maybe like taking note of.
Yeah, I even saw like a TikTok from like a random film TikTok that was talking about like, oh yeah, the High Republic Jedi are the worst because they're just like cops, and like this is why Star Wars Jedi sucks.
But that's the point.
That's-
Remember the
Did they watch the prequels?
Yeah,
Do you remember me bringing up Natasha's point of ha 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 ha? They can't touch our Star Wars because it's books.
yeah.
That right there is like signed, sealed, delivered.
Mhm.
That tweet is about that person because that person has never read the High Republic. At
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
point at that point in the galaxy, they are so dissolved. Like they don't want to be a part of hardly anything. At one point, I'm pretty sure it's pretty well said in Light of the Jedi that the Jedi are just like they're just trying to connect people. They're just trying to like keep
Yeah.
people like connect
Expanding.
people,
They're
expand
expanding.
the universe, and they're not necessarily they're there to be peacekeepers. They're not there to be warriors, and they're not part of the political standpoint. However, in Temptation, that gets tested quite often, and you can start seeing the relationship between the Republic and the Jedi to what it is in the prequels. The seedlings are starting to be seen there a little bit.
Yeah, and I think like what I just keep saying over and over again, because like I'm already kind of starting to feel like kind of to the point that's being made now, like a little frustrated around like the discourse around like the Jedi, because I agree. I didn't see like who the person was that just kind of left that comment, but like the danger of Jesse, hi, of painting the Jedi in this sort of like evil, sinister light, encourages the idea of like making the Sith actually look better than they are. Anyway, the point I guess I'm making is like the way that the Jedi are showing up at this point in their history, in my opinion, is deeply a trauma response to a lot of things that they experience, like through the High Republic phase in the books. Like there are things that happen to the Jedi Order that are really, truly, just so traumatic that I think it changed their whole perspective and relationship to how they look at their own role in the galaxy, how they're sort of looking at how they make decisions. Like I'm trying to like not get into spoiler territory for
Yes.
people or whatever, but there is an event that happens in phase 3 by one of our more popular Jedi, this person goes to the Jedi Council, wants to do this thing. They're kind of like, nah, I don't think you should do this. Like, let's make a measured decision. And eventually this Jedi gets to move forward with the plan that they wanted to do. And it has catastrophically terrible results. And like, I think that
I haven't read it, but I know you're talking about Elzar Mann.
Yeah, it has to be Elzar.
What?
Elzar. I will say,
like problematic king.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The man who could never do anything wrong ever.
The perfect Jedi.
He makes nothing but good choices all of the time.
And I love him for that.
God damn. And here's the other thing with like Elzar specifically. It's like, as far as I've gotten, he is just like, I'm like, dude, just let go, man. Dude, that's what you gotta do. Like, and the funny part about it is that he is the Anakin Skywalker of the High Republic, but he's just able to talk about his feelings. Like, that's truly the difference between those two, is that when he makes that decision at the end of Phase 1, it lives with him.
Yeah.
It lives with him. Like, he is constantly reminded of that decision. Unlike Anakin Skywalker, he doesn't probably think about the Tuskens very often, right? Let's just, I mean,
unless Palpatine brings it up.
If you get into the nuance of Darth Vader and the non-6 movie narrative of Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader, you're right. I think that the creators of Star Wars that have been around since they've been writing books and video games since post Return of the Jedi, and then now with like new Disney canon, yes, there are things that we know that yes, he is thinking about those things. Like, there is turmoil and conflict behind that mask, but that's very deeply buried within Star Wars.
Yes.
And I think, and this is a frustration that I think does tie into the Acolyte discourse, is the horrible misunderstanding of Anakin Skywalker as a character. He is, and I've made videos on TikTok about this. I think a lot of us have talked about this, and one way or the other is that I really enjoy the story of Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader, and I love how deep that lore has gotten.
Mm-hmm.
I get so unbelievably frustrated by people who make their entire personality about Anakin Skywalker. And like, not to sound gatekeepy, but I'm gonna gatekeep. Like, don't like the guy if you don't understand the guy. Like, come on.
Don't be looking at me. He's
I
not
don't
my
count you in that, because
personality.
you're
the Anakin simp, but I mean, you take it into a rational point of view.
Like,
we're talking
the people who have this fragile view of Anakin, that if anyone in any form in the Star Wars lore comes close to his story, it's a threat to his story. You know, when Palpatine comes back in Rise of Skywalker, they've destroyed Anakin's legacy. And I'm like, no. Safety was never guaranteed after Palpatine was gone.
Yes.
Like, that's how story, like it's like, guys, you clearly didn't read the expanded universe if you're upset about it. Palpatine came back like 20 times. It's okay.
It's okay. Those fans that love Anakin Skywalker like that probably think Homelander is their hero, so it's fine.
Probably.
You're not wrong. The Venn diagram. That's
fuck around and find out.
We have the idea that there are these two twins that somehow, we do not know how, were conceived without a biological father. We don't know how it happened. We just know that the Force seems to have been involved in some way. And because that has an aspect similar to the story of Shmi Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker, the fragile view of Anakin Skywalker is now threatened once again. And I'm like, I can't grasp, like, are you so insecure about your own favorite character that anything that comes close to him and changing how that story operates, like, causes you to have a mental breakdown? like what's wrong with you personally that like that is your response
Mhm.
to like,
Yeah.
hey, this is an interesting story. What if there was another story that was similar to it, quite different but similar, because it is a really good story, and it's worth telling different interpretations and different styles of that story
Yeah.
for good storytelling. And that's what I think May and Osha are, is like,
Yes.
it's clearly inspired by Anakin. Let's not be like ridiculous about it. Yeah, Born Through the Force, that was Anakin. Born Through the Force, May and Osha. How? Well, we don't know either.
No, either.
Well, and even like the most surface level look at the two can tell you right away how different they are, because it's
Yes.
very clear in the Phantom Menace when Shmi says there was no father, like flat out, as opposed to Mother Anastasia going, "I created them."
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
right there, that's like,
Yeah.
phoom.
Yeah.
So how you even feel that story is threatened is a reach that even I can't do with my long arms. Is how
No.
far of a reach that is.
And here's the other thing, like, and I had touched on this a little bit, like the way that those fans just want to say like Nick said, reach, like, and when we say reach, that's like they have to pull it out of their own ass that
Mhm.
they're reaching that much. Like, and here's the thing, I go back to my thing. This is just another gateway into lore that is going to pay off so fucking much.
Mhm.
When it's literally leading to how Plagueis has figured out how to do these things. He's going to look back just as, and this has been my biggest thing about the High Republic era in general, and me and Harith have had this conversation specifically about it.
Hmm.
They have taken parts of the High Republic. They saw what the Nihil did, it didn't work. They saw what the Drungir did, didn't work. They saw all these other sects that tried to take the Jedi down, and it just didn't work. It worked a little bit. They saw the things that those factions had done, and they learned from them.
Yeah. 100%.
So in this sense, this is an open door to what Plagueis could eventually find out. He could go after these witches, go out, seek out their knowledge.
Well, I mean,
And-
there's
and
no
use
witches
it-
left, so I mean,
Well, I mean,
Well,
there's
one that's missing.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
knowledge.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Coral's missing,
the spiral
and
on
we
that, yeah.
don't know the fate of May or Osha. They could, I believe that they could go either way at this point. You know, I think there's animosity with Osha, and there's some resistance there. There's some frustration. We saw it in episode 2, where she's just like she's happy to see Soul, but like she left the Order. She was not
Yeah.
happy in the Order. And what's interesting is we saw how eager she was to join the Order, and now, but we know that like something
Yes.
happened and it didn't go well. And now May, who has a very dogmatic view of how the Coven operates, and again, maybe they'll stay on their paths.Maybe one will switch sides. Maybe both will switch sides.
That's
We
what I was
don't
gonna
know.
ask.
We don't
Yeah.
know. It can go anywhere, and I do think that's maybe another segue of like, we are 3 episodes into this fucking show.
we're halfway done.
Unbelievable.
Out of
yeah.
8, we are not halfway done with the show. And look, anything can happen. The show could take a huge dive, you know, at episode
It
4,
could.
5, 6, 7, or 8. We don't know. I think that's very unlikely, but anything can happen. And I think what we kind of did see with Kenobi was Darth Vader and Anakin aren't fighting, or Darth Vader and Obi-Wan aren't fighting. I don't care. Oh, this is really awesome. We could see that, because the other critique that I did see, and I do 100% feel like I could get behind it if more people were addressing their critiques this way, is the show was promoted as a story of the Jedi and the Sith and their battle during this time period. And that really hasn't been what the show has been about in the first 3 episodes. It has been a murder mystery, more or less, for the majority of it. And if you came into the Acolyte expecting a very explosive, lightsaber heavy show, which is kind of what it was advertised as being, and you're getting this kind of slow burn murder mystery, and like, yeah, I was not expecting this. And I am not a murder mystery person. I'm very much a lightsaber twirly person, and this is not for me. 100% understand that criticism. I've seen it a few times, but not enough times where I'm like, oh, I totally get why everyone's like shitting their pants over this fucking show. Like the insanity, like every single one of us who has posted about the Acolyte has had an endless stream of insufferable context, like oblivious comments in all of our videos. And I'm just like, there are reasons to dislike this show. Same with every Star Wars project since A New Hope. But like the insanity that's going on with this show, and it's just like I was like, I remember going into this thing like, I think this could like maybe change some fandom menace people's minds about Disney Star Wars. Like, fuck, I was wrong about that. Good God.
Yeah, wait. Are you telling me that there's this murder mystery in Star Wars? Okay, yeah, I'm out of here. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go watch the first half hour of Attack of the Clones. I'll be right back. I already watched it. Zam Wessel.
So
We Sean at Slimo.
So maybe to further out my fucking rant on this shit, but like my favorite show of all time is Twin Peaks. I don't know if any of you have seen Twin Peaks.
Heard of it?
Who killed Laura Palmer?
I did.
You don't even know, like partway through season fucking 2. Like I have a video in my drafts on TikTok about this and how like the comparisons of like, not that these shows are comparable like in really any way, but Twin Peaks, and I'll say this, just the storytelling that David Lynch does is different and engages in a different way. And that show, every single episode leaves you with less information. You are more confused, and weirder shit keeps happening every single episode. And that is what is so special about that show, is every episode is a new cliffhanger of like, you just learned all this stuff. None of it got closer to who killed Laura Palmer. But you're just like, but that was a show that had the entire world in its clutches when it was airing. And we've had other shows since then that were aired on network television that had similar responses. Like if you look at stuff like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and like how that show was a week-to-week show, and like, you know, is Angel gonna kill Buffy? Is Buffy gonna kill Angel? They're gonna fall in love, but are they gonna kill each other? And it's just this, you don't know, you'll never know. And it was this, you just watch it to find out what's gonna happen next. And we're in this TikTok brain rot, Netflix binge watching, like state of media consumption where I'm three episodes in, I'm an hour and 40 minutes into a series, and I don't have all the answers, and I'm throwing a temper tantrum online. And I'm just like, this is just the most immature, like brain dead, like critique that I've ever seen of honestly any show, like outside of Star Wars included.
Yeah, and it's like the same people that are complaining about the show being like slow burn will be like, Breaking Bad is a masterpiece, and be like, did you watch Breaking Bad? Because that show is very slow burn at times.
Yeah.
Like it's the first season is very slow burn. It's like I said, like Chase, I think it goes back to your point of just like people's like Netflix, like, oh, I have to have everything at once. I gotta watch the next episode. Like, have some patience.
Yeah, season 1 of Breaking Bad's quite a drag.
Yeah. Like
there's some slow build up, and then once you
I
start
hate that they ever
once
saw
you start
season
getting
one
into
of
the
Clone Wars,
Salamancas and then you
die.
meet Gus, that's
Yeah.
when it gets real intense.
Yeah,
John's got a good point there.
Yeah, I really do miss the art of engaging with television in like a week by week basis, so you actually have some spaciousness to like actually like think about what you are watching. And I also think that in this like Netflix binge watching, you know, world that we're in, you know, and like, you know, content creation, everybody has to have like the first thought about something like immediately, you know, online or whatever. You know, the idea of releasing an entire show and binging it all together just doesn't really give you the spaciousness to actually like think and sit with what is this piece of art actually like saying, how am I connecting to it personally, like what is the intent of like these different characters. I've had like time to like rewatch these episodes and actually like think about the story that the music is telling, like think about like the story, like think about like all of the different like perspectives of the characters and like what was the writer's like intent behind different like character and story choices, and like actually having like the space to like really like focus and think about that. And like and honestly just to like make a bunch of like dumb memes like and like enjoy and like have a lot of fun, you know, with episodes like on sort of like a week by week basis. And I really miss the art and leisure of experiencing TV in this way. And I think that this show is doing so much, is like giving like the community, the Star Wars community, so much that we are able to engage in and think about, whether it's surface level, whether you're just like, listen, I'm here for the Yord memes and only the Yord memes.
Whoa.
Yord Fiesta forever.
Yeah.
Yord horde.
Hey, just wait till we get the Kelnaka crew going.
Just wait till you.
Yeah, the
Dungeons of
Kelnaka
War
crew.
criminal.
Kelnaka
Luke,
crew.
That's okay.
You know what?
Luke, how much you
Whatever-
want to bet that Kalnaka dies his next episode?
I will.
Well,
And that was the end of Char Char J's run as being a host on this podcast. Goodbye.
Sorry, I just got back from watching Attack.
Wow, what is the
Dude,
survivor?
I just got done watching
Wow.
Attack.
What kind of bullshit is this?
Hey, look,
My name is Captain Typho.
hey, guess what? Look, one less white guy to have an opinion about.
Hey, I mean, you're the one that thinks you look like Aragorn. Please.
Wow.
Oh, do you guys do you need a minute? We can step out if you guys want to hash something.
Yeah,
here.
Luke.
No.
But I do agree with Natasha. I think like this binge first thought process of needing to get that instant gratification has caused such a decline in people being able to appreciate what they're being given. They're always seemingly to wanting to what's next. And I think like it's the one thing that I have appreciated about Disney doing with all of the Star Wars series that they've pulled out is that week to week model.
Love it.
Because it gives that time to breathe with it. It gives that time to go back and enjoy the nuances of what you see, as opposed to just like jumping through it and having to be the first one to jump through it so that you don't get it spoiled, or that you can be the first one out with an opinion. So I really appreciate it, personally.
Yeah. I
Also,
think...
Smiley Squad.
Smiley Squad, that's right. It's not Darth Teeth, it's Lord Smiley. Or if you believe the Chimera theory, it's Darth Bortles. If you've...
Or you believe that he's a nobody theory because we've seen too many mysterious characters at a mass, and like at this point we should just expect the unexpected. Anyway,
the one thing I will say, and it's definitely like a not something I want to happen, but I could definitely see happening, is if we look at like Mandalorian season 1 and what a like runoff success that show was. I think for a lot of people, like Star Wars has very much become the Mandalorian, like modern Star Wars is the Mandalorian for them. And that was very much the adventure of the week show. Yeah. Like, yes, there was an overarching story that was happening, but you're very much focusing on what's Din and Grogu getting up to this time. And like, kind of to go back to like 90s, like weird television is like, that's very much what X-Files was like, yes, there was a story about Mulder and Scully, but very much like if you missed an episode of X-Files 1 week and you hopped in 2 or 3 weeks later, you were fine. You could just see what they were up to that week. And I do think that type of storytelling does work very well with modern viewership behaviors. And it's not what I want, because I do like stories like Andor and the Acolyte, where I'm finding out more and more every single week. And I have 7 days to kind of theory craft and guess and see like, okay, so well, kind of like what you said, like, okay, so the music here reminds me of the music from this project. So are they hinting at something over here? I like that, and maybe that's just because I grew up in a different era. But it's just one of those things. Like, I don't want to see it, but I could see more shows having more success with that adventure of the week style format, because that's just how content is consumed nowadays. I hope that's just not the way that, you know, Disney goes from here. And it's frustrating to see that is kind of where it's going, but I hope. Oh my god!
Not gonna
It
Take it down.
exists. It exists.
I cannot
Brought to
even.
you by this episode is brought to you by Kalnaka Crew.
absolutely.
Two thumbs up.
Where if you join the group,
Whoa.
we have Wookiees cookies and blue milk.
But yeah, I mean, Pat brought up a good point. Like Power Rangers and like Kamen Rider and stuff like that is very much adventure of the week, monster of the week, and I like that type of storytelling, but it's not my preferred type of storytelling. But it's just one of those things of like, it's frustrating to see, because it happened with Andor too. Like the first 3 episodes of Andor, everyone was like, "This is the slowest, most boringest show
So annoying.
ever."
Yep.
And then that show really picks up. And then it's just it's so funny to me, and I'd like to hear everyone else's thoughts, because it's like the whole anti-woke crowd typically.
Sorry, I'm shaking my head at the comment, not at you, Chase.
Now,
I know why you're shaking your head.
Hey John, guess who's not getting invited to the club?
Guess what? You can't have Blue Milk at Galaxy's Edge anymore. You got to get your membership pass.
Kalnaka's gonna die.
And guess what? When Kylo Ren comes a knocking, we're gonna tell him everything.
Man,
play
I lost my
stupid
train
game.
of thought.
Play stupid games.
No, I mean your train of thought, Chase, was like essentially after each episode, these fans treated like it's over.
The series is over.
That's the
and that's
finale. Like that's it. Like there's nothing more for it to build off of. There's no continuation. This is what the characters are. There's no progression. That's how they see it. For some odd reason, I don't know why they think that if it's just like strays a different path. Because may I remind all of you guys, all of you fanboys out there, this is a brand new era that takes place outside of the realm of the films. This is a brand new era. There's new characters, new story, different kind of Jedi. This is not the same type of Star Wars you're used to. So if you're going to see a new kind of story being told and you're just going to label it as woke because you just don't like it, that's such a lackadaisical argument. That's so lax. Like
My whole problem with this, and this is just fandom in general, is I can get behind criticisms,
Mhm.
but I will. And this is just a Pod Ones thing. We do not condone racism. We do not condone the hate against the LGBT
Homophobia?
Try it again, Luke.
homophobia. we and I will tell you this: we get anything like that, you're done. Like we don't. We tried to make try to make a safe space for everyone to enjoy Star Wars, whether they like the new stuff or not. That's fine. You can have that criticism, but when most of the criticism is because it's because the creator of the show is gay, like that, like you don't have any stills that you can stand on with.
Well, I
with
think
at
I
least
think a
with
lot
us.
of I think a lot of people that have those types of opinions, especially when it comes to like comment sections, most, not all, because I've seen some wild comments out there.
yeah, as a mod.
It is this like thinly veiled criticism. It is just like, I just don't like Leslie Headland. Why? Because I don't like her. Tell me why.
Why?
And
Tell
they
me
won't
why.
come. They won't come out and say
Ain't
it.
nothing but a heartache.
Ain't nothing
but a mistake.
Our video
I
demonetized.
never wanna hear you say the fanboys can suck.
That was definitely me. I'm so sorry. Continue. Please,
It's like
It's okay. We
is-
made something out of it. I tried. It was great.
It's fine. It is this
Try to
thing
get a
of
the-
clip out of every episode at least once. Sorry, Chase. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me because when we look at the Acolyte, we look at the cast, we look at the director, we look at the interviews and comments surrounding the Acolyte, and it very much does not line up with how they perceive the world. But what I think is so funny is the anti-woke crowd, right? Typically has a very specific political leaning. And what I think is so funny to me is a lot of that anti-woke crowd rallies behind Andor. Like it is the only good thing that Star Wars has done. That and The Mandalorian are the only two good things that Star Wars has done since Disney bought it. And I'm like, Mandalorian, I'm like, I get why people like that. It's Silver Boba Fett shooting things really, and he's really cool the entire time. That's why they like it. That's why they like it. Andor is a guy who seems white enough.
No, it's true.
It's true.
He's not white. He's white enough.
If he's white enough, yeah.
And he does manly things. He's not sensitive. He doesn't do anything feminine. But the story there is just so fucking over their heads that they don't understand that show is very much everything they stand against in their political discourse.
I have
And
a lot to say about this. Go ahead.
Oh no,
Yeah.
Natasha, go
continue.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, finish your thought.
Yeah, but it to me it is like the irony of the Fandom Menace is that this typically, I don't want to put everyone in a box, but typically the right-leaning anti-woke crowd typically likes Andor, even though it is like Nemec's manifesto alone should have turned their brains off, and it didn't.
Agreed.
Because again, a white man wrote that manifesto.
Like Chase and I have had this conversation a lot of like finding it very interesting, like the right leaning crowd like liking Andor. It's like it's such an interesting thing to talk about because it's just how.
So here's the other
But-
thing. Though. Here's the other thing. They are also the crowd that don't understand that A New Hope is the Rebel Alliance is the Viet Cong and the Empire is the American government. They still refuse to say that. They say, well, the Rebel Alliance is the United States and the Empire is Nazi Germany in World War II. You could look at it that way, I guess, but that's not the main purpose of
there's
what's
there's
going on.
inspiration there for sure.
There's inspiration for
that,
sure, but
that inspiration is there. They're called fucking stormtroopers. But
Yeah.
Natasha,
Yes.
you said you had a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. So a couple of thoughts. Like, first of all, as I think like we're already saying and we're already alluding, like a lot of these shows or a lot of these movies and shows, whether we're talking about The New Hope, definitely like talking about Andor, talking about a lot of most of Star Wars until like pretty recently centers on white men. So like I think that it's like very easy. I know like we can talk about how radical the messaging in Andor is, and it is. And Andor is and remains, one of my favorite pieces of content to ever come out of Star Wars.
By far.
And
for me.
yeah. And the show not only has like a cast starring a person of color, but like you said,
White
enough,
What?
baby.
to the untrained eye, but yes, but yeah, and I think that the show frames a lot of the white male characters consistently as like the heroes throughout the course of the throughout the course of the show, and I think that regardless of the messaging of the story, like the subsect of right-wing shitty, racist, xenophobic, whatever, a part of the fandom, only sees, oh, white dude hero, and like that's like really all that they're seeing and engaging with. That is obviously the case because like that is also how they view the original movies. It goes back to how they view characters like Anakin Skywalker. Like, I mean, they're just like fundamentally not just misunderstanding sort of like some of these individual characters like purpose and motivation. They ultimately don't even understand the story that Star Wars is telling as a whole, like from like the beginning to end. And, and I think like the difference that we're seeing in more recent shows is Disney is really starting to expand in who is being represented like on screen in a very real way. Like we think about, shows like Obi-Wan Kenobi, again, like, we're shows like Ahsoka and now this, where we are seeing characters who are represented on screen we're seeing more women of color, we're seeing like more Black characters, like we're seeing a lot more of these kinds of characters taking center stage more and more and more. And what is frustrating to me, as just like a side note, is like there are certain projects like and shows like where I do have legitimate critiques of, and like it's hard to even engage in like the discourse around like actual thoughtful critique in this fandom, because like I feel like the second I say like, hey, I have this like one issue with this thing that I experienced in the Ahsoka show, all of a sudden it's just like critiquing and having a problem with how woke the show is because of like all of the like women of color in it. Or I'm not even gonna get into like Book of Boba Fett, but like what but I feel like I can't say one critical word about like Book of Boba Fett, because then like people like really go to town and say like really like crazy ass things like about that show. And and I think that we're seeing this increase more and more and more as like the diversity increases more and more and more with each show. I mean, I know like a lot of people are like, wow, like the the fandom menace is just being so terrible right now. And I just keep thinking about when that first public trailer or like came out, and the critique, I don't even want to call it critique because like that's like too kind of a word, but like the meltdown people had over like the amount of like girl younglings that there were in
the both trailers on YouTube, like the official, like were like downvoted or disliked on YouTube to hell. The show we didn't know what the show was about. We didn't know who was the main character. We didn't know about the twins. We just knew that there were Jedi and Sith, and not all of them were white dudes. And so
and people fucking lost their fucking minds.
And what I don't want to say it pisses me off, because like I'm just like it's just being upset with like misinformed and ignorant people. The reality is Disney is not pushing a radically left-leaning agenda.
I wish they were.
And the closest we got was Andor. And Andor is like surprisingly radicalized and has radical messaging behind it.
Yes.
It is still a corporate Disney product, so the leash is still on with Andor.
I mean,
it is not like insane, like, hey, go to your local police station and set it on fire type of radical. But it's
if you want to throw a brick at a cop, it's fine.
Yeah. It's not all like, hey, everyone who is involved in the military should be, charged for war crimes for the past 25 years. We're not that radical yet. Because it's still fucking Disney, right? And it's like,
yes,
the fact that like there are people on the internet that are screaming about how Disney just cares about a political agenda. And I'm like, what fucking political agenda are you talking about? Like, yes, are there inklings of progressive ideology in every single Disney Star Wars show we have gotten? Yes. The answer is yes. There is hey, this is a progressive tone. Kenobi has it. Mandalorian has it. Book of Boba Fett has it. But it is not the central theme of the show. It is just like, hey, here's a good message to spread to the world. It is kind of like basic human rights are a thing that people deserve. Good job. You get your gold star in like political ideology. Like they are not trying to say, you know, hey, here is our political leaning and you have to, and we're going to push everything. It's like, we just casted Abigail Thorne, and it's like, honestly, I think people don't even realize that, like, hey, one of the witches was a trans woman. I don't think they've gotten the hint yet.
No, they haven't. They haven't at all.
Because like I love philosophy
Don't tell
too.
them.
I love philosophy too. And Abigail is great. And like when she announced that she was in there, and like part of me was like, just because I love philosophy tube, not that it contributes anything to the story. I'm like, man, I hope we get more of Abigail. But I'm like this is their fucking political ideology, right? Is like, hey, trans people exist. What if we use them in our casting? That's not a fucking ideology, man. That's just like, hey, you put someone in a goddamn show.
It's just like trans people just exist. That's it.
They're here. They're here. They're people. If they fit the role, cast them. It's not a political point to cast a trans person. They were the best person. That's it. That's the end of it.
The Witches Coven is like a 6-foot-tall woman of color that would kick your ass. Fucking deal with it.
And let's be honest, a lot of us would probably sit there and go, "Yes, please go ahead, kick my ass. I'm fine with this."
Yeah, like literally, I'm like, step on me, please.
Mommy,
So here's the. Oh no, go ahead, Char.
Well, like literally, I mean, I'll keep this short and sweet. The essentially of it is like it's only political if you make it that way. Like that's literally what the fanboys have doing. Like that's the only that's like the only rationale for their argument is to like show like a sense of pride for their for like how they see Star Wars. I'm like, stories are not based on agendas, okay? We're supposed to tell a story in a good way to include everyone, to be able to push the story forward, and to it's literally just it's not political. The fanboys are just making it that way.
So here's the problem though. Star Wars is always going to be inherently political.
Yeah.
Because it's in the fucking name. Star Wars. You can't have a war without two differing
yeah, but the difference in the politics here, like
they're Hollywood blockbusters. Did Saving Private Ryan not teach you anything?
It teaches me that I was never allowed to see Saving Private Ryan in the theater again when the scene of the guy looking for his limb made me laugh.
Okay, that's because you Canadians didn't have the hardest. No, wait, no, y'all.
Don't you start this. No. Remember very clearly, the Geneva Convention exists because of us.
Anyway, before we jump down around.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you. Jump in here, Jesse.
I figured Jesse was going to jump in here.
of political stuff. So, like, here's the thing.
yeah, like I mean the politics of Star Wars. Like I mean I get it, like they're like politics of Star Wars like is a part of the saga, but like it's two completely different regimes, I'd say.
I just absolutely fucking love how Char's just like real serious. And all of a sudden,
please.
Yeah, the in-universe Star Wars politics is trying to like make sure power is about power, while the fanboys are like, wait, your sexual orientation is different from mine. You're not. No, we don't like it. Like that. That's their mindset.
No, I agree. And like, here's the other thing. Like when Chase was talking about that Disney is still a capital.
Sorry, I'm laughing at Jesse's comment.
Oh my god.
It's okay. The Canadians didn't drop the bomb.
That is a kilometer.
Anyway. Oh my god. Oh.
Well, that was our last episode.
No.
Oh, wow.
Okay, everyone.
I'm gonna go watch Attack of the Clones for the third time.
Here's the thing, and I just forgot what I was gonna say. God damn it. So hold on, I'll find it.
I feel like Jesse is taking on my role of fucking everyone up. But to kind of get back on track is like I will be honest. Like, do I kind of like what you said earlier, Natasha? Is like, are there critiques and criticisms to have towards not only Star Wars but Disney Star Wars, 20th Century Fox Star Wars, and all fandoms, franchises, individual shows? Yes, 100%. I have criticisms about some of the stuff in the Acolyte. Some of it's not like my favorite. There's criticisms I have about Andor. There's criticisms I have about every fucking Star Wars show and movie that has ever existed ever.
Except for Kenobi.
No, there's criticisms about Kenobi.
Yes,
Yeah,
Luke.
The only perfect series is Resistance, Luke. Shut up.
Some people will be
Resistance and
shocked to
D-Squad
know.
are the only flawless Star Wars out there.
Some people will
And
be
the
shocked
Village
to know
Pride.
that when Empire came out, not everyone liked it. Not
Well,
everyone liked it.
It's not even that.
Now Empire's
is like,
revered nowadays, and
I
I'm
have
one of
this
those guys
thing-
that reveres it.
I genuinely do like the sequels. I like Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker. I think they're all great movies. They're all great Star Wars. I have a good time with every single one of those movies. I've had a good time with every series that has come out. But I'm also like, I'll give you an example. I'm not a Lego person. Like, Lego doesn't do it for me. So you know what I don't fucking watch? Lego Star Wars. Like, why would I go out of my way to watch something that I'm not going to enjoy?
Exactly.
It's nonsensical. But here's the thing, like what Natasha was saying is like, I don't fucking complain or critique Star Wars. And I know we have friends in the community that definitely have been more vocal about their critiques and stuff like that about certain Star Wars projects. And that's fine. That's their well, St. Pat, you can just fucking jump off a bridge. How about that? Fucking talking about one of the best.
Dude, this is
Wow.
dark.
Where's
But the thing is,
My name is
my-
Colonel Lieber Gascon. We gotta steal the encryption mod.
Jesus Christ.
But the thing is, like, let's say I have a critique. I'm just gonna throw one out there. I have a critique that I don't think Leia should have hugged Chewbacca. I don't think Leia should have hugged Rey in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
She should have hugged fucking Chewbacca because Han Solo just died. And speaking of which, imagine being a kid today and you watch Han Solo like get fucking frozen in carbon. Like, is he gonna be okay? And you're like, in the next one.
He originally
That's as
wasn't
long as
supposed
it
to
lasts.
be, but I think he'll be all right.
But no, it's just like, yes, I have that critique about The Force Awakens, but I'm not gonna fucking go online and talk about it because I think that if I go online, or I feel that if I go online and say, hey, I think it's really fucking stupid that Leia hugs Rey after Han Solo dies. She doesn't hug Chewbacca. And from the original trilogy to everything we've gotten, Leia and Chewie do have a very close relationship.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
And that was a poor decision on J.J. Abrams and the story group's thing. But it's like fucking 5 seconds of the goddamn film. Let's be real.
But it would have been a
I'm
very
also like,
emotional
I don't
moment.
want to load up the fucking can of kerosene for the Fandom Menace to use what I view as a valid critique of the film. I don't think actually detracts from it. It's just an annoying thing that when I see it every time, when Finn says, you got a boyfriend? You got a boyfriend? I'm like, shut the fuck up. That is like cringy ass comedy. I hate that.
None of your business.
Yeah, but I'm like, I'm not gonna like, I don't think that ruins the movie. It's just an annoying thing that when I see it, I just roll my eyes and I keep watching the movie. But I don't fucking go on the internet and say this because I don't want fucking weirdos to be like, yeah, well, I mean, come on, like other shit to complain about the sequels. And I'm also like, am I contributing to the noise at that point? Like, if I'm just going on the internet to say, hey, I think this part of this show is really fucking stupid,
what am I contributing to the conversation that's not just going to get drowned out by fucking weirdos who think, gay people in Star Wars are dumb and shouldn't exist. Like, it's like, yeah, we're not arguing about the same things, but I have this thing when people say they don't like the sequels, I'm like, I'm gonna take a step back. I don't know if I can trust you fully at this point. Like, it's like what you like, don't like what you don't like. But I'm at the point where if you say certain things or if you complain about Star Wars, I'm just like, why are you complaining?
Oh,
Why are you complaining?
Oh, by the way, let's bring it back to
Bring it back to the Wokalite.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
The
I feel like
Wokalite,
we have
yeah.
not actually talked about the show in a really long time.
We took a bit of a turn.
I mean, we really did touch base with a lot of key points.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are we going back to talking about the show?
We can go back to talking.
Yeah,
about
let's do it.
Yeah,
talking about Acolyte.
let's finish up where, like, because we are running almost 2 hours, and I love this. I love this conversation. And Tosh did say, "Oh, it could go for 5 hours." I don't think I'm like, physically able to go for 5 hours.
I was talking big. My bed is calling me. So
Okay,
Yeah.
let's bring it. Let's both bring it back to the Acolyte and get a wrap up. So I guess I will say, okay, if we got another episode that was a flashback that is back on Brendock, who do you want to see the flashback revolve around?
Oh, May. For sure. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
May or Torben. May or Torben.
May.
I would say, like, if we're gonna have just one, then definitely May. I think if we're gonna have multiples,
I don't want May as the flashback.
Ooh.
Oh,
Have you seen the title of the show?
Because I want her I would rather her perspective of what happened be revealed like towards the end of the show.
Oh,
Okay.
I want to see like Indara's perspective. Like if we go back, like it's Indara's perspective or Soul's perspective. Like
that's what I was gonna say.
I think
Yeah.
Indara's perspective to me would be the most interesting because she clearly had a goal going there. Like she was bound and determined to have a child on that ship by the end of the trip. And so I want to see her perspective, and I would like to see what happened with May, because I think we can see what happened in that temple from another person's perspective and get a very full and broad picture of what happened from Indara, Torben, Soul, Anazea, or Coral. Like we can get that. We can get a very broad picture.
I know, Luke. I know. You missed someone, Chase.
Wookiees aren't people.
Kamako crew get screwed.
Don't follow the Wookiee agenda.
Wow. Already
I mean,
I'll knock it down.
Damn.
Wow.
What are you gonna get? What are you gonna get from Kalnaka's perspective?
Maybe
Shut
like
up.
some
Time
Mark
out, time out.
Thompson.
Shut up.
Luke, no.
First
Whoa,
of all,
Breathe.
No.
No. As CEO,
I already have a bone to pick with you from earlier.
as CEO of Kalnaka's crew, we haven't even decided if we're gonna put an S on it or not. It sounds better with the Kalnaka crew. I find that last comment blasphemy, sir.
Hey, Luke.
Blasphemy.
Deal with it.
I
Oh.
Pod
Right,
one,
anyways.
so forever at war.
Anyways,
I
Natasha.
like that's so interesting. I'm really curious about what it would be like to see somebody's perspective. Honestly, I just assumed because of like the twin thing that they were just gonna do like May as the next perspective. But I think kind of to the point that you're making, like there's a way to sort of see more of what happened with May from somebody else's perspective. I don't know why I'm like less interested in Indara's perspective, honestly.
Because you're not an incel like me.
I'm very much. I
need my Indara incel logo.
I'm not. but I love the idea of it being from Torben's perspective. Actually, I think that would be really cool. I think it would be really interesting to see, like, as a Padawan, as somebody who is sort of like, they're sort of in service to, and following Indara around, like, what is sort of his perspective of her, versus like what we have seen on screen. And like, again, that will actually kind of give us like the opportunity to see some of the things I'm really interested in, like what was May's test scene like. So
it's so funny you brought up Torben, because what I want is what I wanted out of Jedi Survivor when Dig and Gara like did the mind trick on Bode. And I was like, I was hoping that the mind trick was going to be the crux of Bode's betrayal. It wasn't like that. Whatever, fuck Bode. I want to know. I would love to see the perspective from Torben when his eyes go inky black from the Coven.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I want to know, like, what did he see?
Yeah.
Because like, well, okay, we don't know what happened, but let's say he had involvement in starting whatever it was that tore down the Coven. Like, was it because of that? And did, I think it's almost safe to assume, did what he see contribute to him taking the bearish vow?
I think it's possible.
Here's what I can almost.
He saw what Gandalf saw on the mountainside.
So here's what I can guarantee will happen in the next.
Guarantee.
You're putting money on it?
Kalnaka will
double down.
No, as we joked
One
of,
card?
yes. Okay, would you just let me talk? Dang it! All right. So, I think the Kalnaka crew is going to be in a tizzy, either next week or the following week, because we're going to get a flashback either in the next 2 weeks. Whether they decide to say, nah, we're gonna we'll go back to the present and then go back to the past after the fourth.
I think we'll be back in the present next episode.
I think so too, because I think we gotta eventually have that, because as they've been saying, like, they're not giving us the whole story, and I don't think they're gonna give us the whole story that next episode. That's not how this has been going this entire way.
I think they'll leave us hanging until
But
the very end.
eventually, I think we're going to see Kalnaka get controlled like Torben, and he is going to run amok. And it's not going to be pretty.
No one's arms were missing though, so
no, that is true.
But
but Torben's face is pretty messed up. And by the way, Kalnaka was not on the ship.
That we know of. I mean, it is a big ship. He could have been somewhere else. Just
I think all of them were on the ship. I think it's just the only people we saw.
Yeah,
we're just the people in frame.
I mean, I almost wonder, to Chase's point, if rather than getting Torben's point of view and kind of what that possession did to him, if the next episode is in the present and they do go to Kofar to catch up with Kalnaka, we get that same information from Kalnaka, because obviously Torben's gone. We don't know what it was he saw. Kalnaka's still alive in the present of the show.
Yeah. And also because Soul knows a little bit, but he doesn't know as much.
Soul's in the dark.
Soul is in the dark in some way.
I think Soul is hiding something, but I think he's not hiding it maliciously. I would this is one of those things, like, I would be disappointed in a way if they villainized Soul.
Yes, agreed.
Like it's one of those things, like he's hiding something to protect people.
Yes,
and I think he maybe we get him hiding it was not the correct decision, but
agreed.
his reasoning was justified. And I think we've been getting more of that in Star Wars, which is nice, is like people making the wrong decisions, but justifying those decisions and understanding why they did it. We got that with Taram Revora. We got that with Morgan Elsbeth recently with Tales of the Empire. So like,
I would be really sad if like the story led us in the direction where Soul did something really bad. Like that would just make me sad because like he's such such a good character and he's such like
We
it's
all
just
make mistakes.
the actor's doing so well with him.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
just, like
Well,
I would be really sad if they made him out to be some type of bad guy.
And I would like to see his, like the next flashback episode. I'd like to see it from his point of view because clearly in the present he is carrying some serious guilt and regret for whatever happened on Brendock. And I would love to learn, even if it's not the full story. I would love to learn to see what it is that's causing that weight for him. to carry.
I think. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't want a flashback from Soul. What I would like to see is I would like to have his perspective told audibly to May or Osha.
Yes.
Like, you know, whether that's like a final confrontation or like him, you know, like look, anyone can die. Maybe it's a dying words thing of like him telling what he saw, what he did on Brendock to May or Osha, however the story wants to go. I don't think a flashback is needed. It would be interesting, but I think like a more emotional admission of guilt and repenting to either of those characters would, I think, be a little bit more impactful.
And my point was I was going to say is like I feel like there is a philosophical divide between Soul and Kilnaka versus Endara and Torben. So I kind of want to see that play out too because there's clearly like something that was going on between those two camps.
Yeah.
And as much as and again, I think one of the things I'm also holding, and I think we touched on this a little bit like earlier in the conversation, is, you know, I know everybody's just like, we love Soul, everybody's like, you know, Team Soul, and want to protect our precious Jedi Master. But I also want the willingness that I think like everybody wants to afford to a character like Soul, to be honest, is like a willingness that I am giving to like all of the Jedi in this situation.
Agreed.
Because like I don't know what happened yet. Like I'm not willing to villainize any of them, actually. Like
I would love if like the way we're seeing Endara is more of a red herring and like she was actually like just really trying to do the right thing, and just the way we perceive it, it seems aggressive and dogmatic, but it's just like I would love to see that where it's just like, hey, you thought she was the bad guy, but
yeah,
here's the truth. I would love that.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see if that's like the direction that we're going in. Now, do I think that it will change my perspective that like Indara probably should not have come into the space with the energy in which she did? I don't think that my mind will change about that, regardless of what I learn. But I don't think I'm willing to kind of be like, oh, like Indara is like a villain. She is, you know, she came in to try to kill the witches, or, you know, like she's the reason why this happened, you know. Like I don't think I was definitely having some of those feelings like the minutes after the episode ended, but like as I calmed down, I was just like, wait a minute, like let me like process what's actually happening. And yeah, I really want to actually afford the Jedi and the witches like a lot of grace and sort of like figure out like and give the story an opportunity to like send us through this sort of journey with them, and not make too many assumptions about any of the characters. And I know I don't even think I have all of the time to like unpack like where I'm at in terms of the Jedi Council right now. But like I am very curious because like, you know, we're talking about visiting Kalnaka, but I know like when we left off with Soul, to me it sounded like he was being instructed to return and wait for word or discussion with the Jedi Council and other Jedi Masters to kind of figure out like where to go from here. So like I think that like, yes, in the next episode it's likely we're going to see Kalnaka, but I also think it's likely that we're going to see like the Jedi Council, and we're going to see like some we're going to kind of finally get to see where are they at right now? What's going on?
Yeah,
What's
because-
going on with those guys? Right
Because my conspiracy theory about the Jedi Council is the fact that Renestra's like come back is I think they're 50-50 if it's Osha or May, and they need to confront Osha about like, did you do this?
Yeah.
So I think Venestra is like, I think she's like genuine, like, yes, it's May, but I think the council's uncertain, so they need to kind of have that conversation before they can go forward.
That also means Yariel Poof from Living Force, Yariel Poof
Oppo Rensis.
in
Yeah.
Opera.
Leslie has said there are no cameos.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I believe that. And I hope that like Vernestra being like just a book to live action character, which like yes, technically maybe is a cameo, but she has a seemingly a pretty important role. And again, we didn't get any of Vernestra this episode, and I hope we get more.
Oh, and we're getting the light whip soon.
Oh my god, I cannot wait till that comes out. And like and I think like the Vernestra thing is, and yes, I believe that there aren't cameos. I think that we're gonna see something of the Jedi Council. I don't know, or Vernestra will communicate like what the decision was from the Jedi Council or something. You know, we're gonna get something like that. I am so fascinated with like how they are going to approach Vernestra as like the story continues to unfold too. I know a lot of people are in their Vernestra hate phase right now. I refuse.
They just
But,
don't
like,
understand.
They do not get her. That's fine. I will get her. I will be her loudest defender as long as the show is on. But I think that it's intentional that Vernestra is a character that they picked to be present in the show, because Vernestra is a character that saw so many of these trauma points that the Jedi experienced throughout the High Republic. And I think she is intended to be the connector between what happened in the books and where we are now, in order to sort of be that sort of storyteller to like the audience. Do I think she's going to go over all of the, you know, events of the books? No, but like I think that she is definitely going to be the connector to kind of like explain a little bit like why the Jedi are kind of where they are at right now.
To bring that trauma forward as to what they went through both phases, really, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the other thing. When do we get a my master taught me this? When do we get the Stellan drop? Because the Stellan drop would kill me. But anyway, with that, we're at the 2-hour mark, folks. I almost fell asleep in my chair just now.
Wow.
Well,
Rude.
Yeah, so therefore Kelnock is gonna die. Good.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Karma.
god! How dare you?
you weren't awake
work.
to
Sorry.
make sure he was safe, Luke.
I don't make the rules.
Well, you know what?
Um,
You know what? Kelnaka crew is going to live on forever, no
Luke.
matter.
I don't think so.
Luke,
Yeah, yeah.
let me ask you this:
Yes.
2 things.
Okay.
Where can we find you on the internet? And
Wow.
How
get
do
to
you-
start
how do-
this?
yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
start this.
This is new.
Where can we find you on the internet? And how do you
Casey, so
feel
far away
about
down
the
there.
Acolyte so far? Overall,
You can find me at the Jedi Master Eggs on all social medias, and you can find me and a lot of these other people on the pod ones, whether it's our Friday night roundtables for the Acolyte, our deep dive episodes, and our reactions to House of the Dragon, which start on Sunday
I'm
night.
so pumped.
Yes.
It's Team Black all the way. Rhaenyra, we at the pod ones bend the knee to the one true queen.
I'm kidding.
Shout out to those who read Fire and Blood.
Everybody.
Sure.
That's a deep cut. That's a deep cut.
He cites the deep
but
lore.
Anyway. We will be joined every week for reactions with Mesa Windu and Lady Dragon JJ And my thoughts on the Acolyte, I've liked it. I've liked it a lot. I think there's a lot that we can there's a lot that we can work with here. It's oh my god, would you get it together? Anyway.
What about this
That's
episode?
great.
Has any of us had it together, Luke?
Charlie
I mean, we spent 10
Johnson.
minutes laughing over Jesse's comment. So
Where can I find you on the internet if I wanted to see your content? And how do you feel about the Acolyte in 15 words or less?
There's 2 words that you didn't say there.
Oh my god, Char.
The good
Starts with a
people.
G and ends with good people.
You know, the good people. The good people follow you on the social medias.
Well, the one
Christ.
thing that I want an Acolyte to happen is I want to know how long May has been the Acolyte. Like,
Oh
how
my
long
God.
after the incident has she been the Acolyte? Like, how long has she been a part of it? And
15
how
words.
the training?
That's
that she
more than 15 words, Char.
Okay, 2 words. Chris, Paul, George must watch TV. Charles, that's 8. Oh,
That's a sport. That's a sport.
remember those
reference.
tests in elementary school where it was follow the directions and it just said to write your name and there was a whole test below it?
Yes.
Not to write anything below that. That was you. Harith.
But no,
Yeah.
good people. You can find me on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at Char Today, as not spelled right here. You
Oh
can find
my
me at the
God,
Podcast
every single
every
time.
Tuesday night for Acolyte reactions, and then here every Friday for Acolyte reactions. And you can find Harith on every Sunday reading Fire and Blood.
Jesus Christ.
Harith edits productions.
Yes.
Where can I find you on the internet? And in 10 words or less, tell me how you feel about the Acolyte.
The people can find me at Harif Productions on TikTok and Instagram, Harif_edits on Twitter. That's not my 8 words. That's my plugs. And my 8 words is this is on pace to be my favorite show. There. Who's going, Natasha? Let's clean this up.
Oh my
On
god.
my pace.
Oh,
I was gonna
Holy
do our
moly.
lovely
favorite
guest
show.
as the finale.
That's actually 10. But he
Okay.
did say 8 words, but
Okay.
go read Fire and Blood.
You can find me. You can find me on Twitter under NKNAPPER. I talk a lot about the show, almost exclusively. You can find me on TikTok, NMKNAPP. And what do I think about the show? I'm loving it. I think that it is one of the best things that we have seen out of Star Wars in an incredibly long time, and or notwithstanding. And I'm excited to see where it goes.
Amazing.
Next.
Nick, where can we find you on the internet?
You can
how are
find me-
feeling
Sorry,
about
go
the
ahead.
Acolyte.
I
You
cut-
can use
I
as
cut you
many
off.
words as you want on this one.
Yes. Another
MLA
2
for
hours
that.
to go then. No. You can find me on TikTok and Twitter at NDWiseGuy. Like Natasha, I am talking a lot about this show. I talk a lot about the High Republic. We love the High Republic, so if you want to talk more about it, come find me. I love the Acolyte so far. I love how they have strung out an extremely dense narrative so well through 3 episodes that every time we get something new, kind of to your point earlier, we're still waiting on something because something new has been introduced. And I love the way that they've handled that, and I cannot wait to see where it goes. And also Kilnaka Crew for life.
And
No.
also,
Maze Mafia.
and also,
I
and also,
agree.
where can
I
you and
agree.
also, and also where else can you be found?
You can also find me on Tuesdays and Fridays here with the Podwans talking about the Acolytes, doing reactions and discussion.
Bam.
Okay.
Amazing.
Char.
I am Chase. You can find me at Forward Into the Black, and I think the Acolyte is woke garbage, and I can't wait for George Lucas to beat the shit out of Kathleen Kennedy. Thanks everyone for tuning into the Podwans podcast.